What's up, guys? Welcome back to Keeping Up with the X-Men. And yes, this video is late compared to what I said it was going to be, but man, it has been outrageous. Got to tell you guys, it's a tough year moving into this year. It just seems like everything hit me all at once, man. I came home and the furnace was off and that was broken. It cost quite a lot of money to fix that, and then that was followed by my wife's car that broke down. That's probably going to cost over $1,000 to fix. And then that led to another issue, which led to another issue. And it's just been outrageous. And then to top it all off, we had a big ice over here, and I fell down the staircase. It has just been completely outrageous. Something like the drama of an X-Men comic, man. It just one drama problem led to another, led to another, led to another. And since we're talking about one problem leads to another, leads to another, leads to another, X-Men Grand Design, this book was fantastic, and it's not over. From what I understand, there's going to be a couple more of these, and I'm looking forward to it because, man, this was absolutely crazy. This book pretty much helps us consolidate the continuity of X-Men, and it covers a lot of X-Men, like hardcore amounts of X-Men. It covers material going as high up as like 1978 or something like that. Like, it's outrageous. There's because I see an event right here. This is crazy. I see an event right here that's like 1989. Like, it covers a lot of material. Now, of course, because of the way retcons and things like that happen, there's one page in here that covers an event that was revealed in 2008 that still took place in the original continuities way back in like the first books. So I mean, yeah, it jumps a lot, but it stays fairly consistent to building the first X-Men team, and that's kind of what this is. And it tries to go through all the different retcons and ideas that have been added throughout the years and kind of tell us where X-Men is right now today. It tries to give us a jump-on point, especially for people that have not been a part of this gigantic continuity. And I'll tell you, I know a lot of this material, but there was even stuff in here that when I read it, I was like, oh man, I haven't read that yet. Like, there's a lot going on. Basically, it starts with the Watcher, and we're gonna skip around a lot here because holy crap. The Watcher tells us that Namor, he was the first mutant event. He drowned New York, and then New York, as it put itself back together and moved everybody back in and things like that, they were pretty much mad at mutants, and that led to a lot of different problems and things like that. Like, it goes through continuity showing us things like how Magneto was originally in the camps, and he was like, they talk about how he was in the internment camps. And you see Captain America and Wolverine, and they're out there. Like, Captain America's just about to let it happen, and Wolverine's going to go over there and stop what's happening. And then Magneto discovers his powers, basically, and whips the shield around, things like that. They go to show us Professor Xavier, and they show the death of his father. And then they show us things like about the Manhattan Project, and they show us about how Kane was just absolute insanity, that he had these dreams about hurting Charles, and Charles would pick up on that and everything, and it kind of messed him up. And then over time, how he was kind of overtaken by everything that was going on. And it also shows how Kane burned down Xavier's home, so that was pretty crazy. It shows how Magneto escaped from the internment camps. It shows how after Xavier's home was burnt down, Xavier flew he flew all around the world for a while here. Looks like he did all kinds of meditation and things like that until he heard that there was another person that was like him. So he went to Cairo, Egypt. Now, this is actually a massively important moment in the history of the X-Men, because this was the moment that he encountered for the first time the Shadow King. And he ended up having to fight that dude. And holy crap, that's, for the artwork that we're given in this book, it was a tremendous scene. It really, the artwork grows on you as you go through this. It was definitely picked and designed in a way that made the book look old. And I actually think that that's pretty important. It kind of shows us how far comic books have come, while all of a sudden, while at the same time, it kind of maintains this feeling of what it was like to be in comic books at the time. So the artwork is kind of crude, and the panels, the way that they're lined up and everything is kind of crude compared to today's storytelling, and it's well done. It's well done. And then the pages have a yellowing to them, which is kind of neat. It makes it feel like it's an older book, like you've been through all this. And we see how Magneto was kind of tortured throughout the course of his life, and how one thing led to another that created the person that he would later become. We see that Charles enlisted in the army, and that, or rather, I believe he was drafted, to be fair. He was drafted, and then that is around the time that the Ceterac crystal was discovered. I believe that's what this thing was called, if I remember right. Yes. It then shows that after he believed Kane to have died, he went back home. He started working on a project. He went to rallies and things like that, started supporting the mutant issues. He became kind of not necessarily a political figure, but he tried to be a part of what was going on. He went on marches and things like that, while at the same time using his family fortune to devise what would later be the Cerebro machine that would allow him to find these mutants. And he became completely obsessed with it. He discovered things like Magneto. And then he even went to confront Magneto and try to change this man to show him, hey, we can be better people. And then he also has his own personal problems where he ends up talking to different women and stuff like that, where you see that he believes that reading her mind, that seeing the things that she wanted, that he might have kind of used her, things like that. So you see different ideas like that. You get the chess game with Magneto and Xavier talking about the differences of their lives and where they think it is. And you see the Jean Grey incident, the death of her friend, where she very first reaches out unconsciously and contacts the Phoenix, and then the Phoenix starts moving its way towards the planet. You see things like the Shi'ar Empire, which ends up, they come down and they take, you see where they take Scott's father and mother, and then the mother gets killed, and then Scott's father goes nuts, and he's imprisoned, and later on he will become the Starjammers, and it shows him escaping from the prisons and things like that. It shows Scott the day he wakes up in the hospital and destroys the hospital. It shows Xavier working with Jean to wake her up and bring her back to the world. It shows Scott's initial first breakdown, when his powers actually work and he's well aware that his powers worked, and he's under the impression that he may have killed somebody. And I mean, it's just a panic thing. He didn't do what he thought he did, but he certainly did, and that leads him kind of down a life of crime for a little while until he's discovered by Xavier. You get Iceman, who has a fight in school, who ends up basically in jail, and he's waiting an unfair trial, and they break him out, and Xavier kind of changes the minds of everybody around him. And then you see more things dealing with Magneto, where he saves the Scarlet Witch, and he saves Pietro, if I remember right. No, I'm sorry. All of a sudden, my mind has completely. Yeah, I was right, man. I'm sorry. Like I said, I'm just trying to get back into the groove of doing this. Like, this book is huge. Like, I can't believe how much, like, every single page, literally every single page is something. And it's something big. You see that the Sentinel program is being put into action. You flip a page and you see Beast and his football career, and how a couple people figured out what he was, and then how he got captured by the Gladiator and was forced to do some crimes. And then later, the X-Men, or what is composed of the X-Men team at that time, which is only like Angel, Scott, and Iceman, break in. They fight their way through. That's the introduction of Jean Grey, where she comes in and she saves them. But in the process of saving them, she utilizes her powers, and she nearly kills like everybody in the room. Like, they end up like almost walking husks. She damages their brains and everything. So Xavier makes that decision to kind of cut off part of her pathways and change different things in her mindset, which will then later lead to the blocks that you hear about where Jean was never able to access her entire power. And man, it's just outrageous. You see these really cool events that show the X-Men do more than just fisticuffs, where they're saving people from floods, and they're bringing like Thanksgiving and whatnot to mutants that are in need, people that need it. You see the introduction of what will soon become the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. You see that the Phoenix is approaching the planet. It's just every single page is a moment in X-Men history. And at the end, if you feel like you want to read each one of these moments, this is something I thought was like the coolest thing ever. X-Men Grand Design, additional reading, the very last page is page 1, page 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, 10, and 11, 12, 13, 14. It's outrageous. Every single page is a moment in X-Men history. And every single one of these pages that was added to this book is then documented in the back to tell you, these are the issues where we got this information. If you would like to go read these issues and have a first-hand account of every single thing that Grand Design just went over, this is what you'd need to find. Like, this book was awesome. This book was awesome. And I'm telling you guys, it's also one of those books that it's also kind of intimidating, because this is supposed to help you catch up with X-Men. It's supposed to help you see where X-Men are and how they got there. But man, if you're new to X-Men and you don't really know it, and you're already having trouble with the continuity, and you read this, it could be a little overwhelming to see just how big of a world you've really entered, because this book was huge, but it was awesome. This book is so cool, guys. So rather than drag this out, because holy crap, we could sit here. If I talked page after page after page after page one at a time and actually gave all my little background things and all the little things I wanted to say and all the things that made me think and all the opinions I have, I could do a podcast over each and every page, probably an hour of discussion on each page. It is that huge. This book was completely awesome. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave you to it here right now. That's what this book basically was. So now you know. So now you're all caught up with X-Men Grand Design. And in the back, it said that in 2 weeks there would be another Grand Design. So I'm looking forward to picking that up. And yeah, we're done here. You are now all caught up with X-Men Grand Design. Later on.